It's time we got back onto that 1989 Vogue SE that's been sitting outside my workshop so long that it appears on Google Maps. Before we get in though, can you check you're subscribed? Lots of people are being unsubscribed. Just double check you are. If you're not, why not? Subscribe helps algorithms. Comment down below. Likes algorithms. Like comments. Don't like comments. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Everything helps the algorithms. That's enough about algorithms. Chose not to swear there. If you fancy contacting me, then Church House Classics, it's all one word, at gmail.com. And if you fancy buying me a pint or just plain supporting the channel, then there's a PayPal me link thing scrolling down here. Both links are in the, both email and the PayPal me link are in the description below the video. Enjoy! So I need a bit of a recap really on where we are with this thing because I've not touched it in that long. I've routed all of the brake lines through now, so everything is routed through. I've popped the rear chassis. This piece of extrusion is just so I can do that. Run the two rear chassis lines through, and they're all connected up, so I'm ready really to bleed the brakes on this. I've taken the fuel tank out, largely because the support for the fuel tank, well, most of it's down there, but then what's left looks like that, and it's absolutely shot, so I need to cut it off and weld a new one on. In the past I've just used a bit of angle line and it's done the job. I know roughly the height at which it needs to be. So these are the two mounting holes, but the whole thing is just, there's nothing left of it. There's no way is it good enough to support a fuel tank. So possibly use a piece of angle line or see if I can't find the repair panel for it. It shouldn't be too much of a problem, but I need to get that cut off because that's a blocker at the moment because it's stopping me from putting the fuel tank in, plumbing the fuel tank in and putting the boot floor in. And getting the project another step further forward. Once the fuel tank is in, then I've got fuel line, which is under there. So the fuel line, I bought coated LPG conifer 10mm pipe for the feed and the return. And these two pipes, they run through these clips, these telltale clips here and here, down to the front of the car. If you remember from earlier, probably in this video, truck bouncing over my unmade road. If you remember from earlier, probably in this video, I replaced the existing rudimentary made up nasty fuel hose, which was largely just hose front to back. And then up here I have got the fuel feed. That's the pipe that takes the pressure into the fuel rail, and then the fuel return comes out from the back of the pressure regulator, the fuel rail pressure regulator. Once I've got the fuel lined up, then we should be in a position really to try and start. So as far as brakes and everything are concerned, all of the brake calipers are now on. I think I put the back brake calipers on. Yeah, back calipers are on. Probably need to put pads in all round, but then all the wheels need to come off to bleed the brakes anyway. Steering, need to put a drop arm in. No, drop arm's in. I need to put the tracking arm in, which is there, waiting patiently. Just saw that. Thought that had split for a second, it hadn't. So really I need to get this welding at the back done, so once that is done, life will become just a little bit easier. Now I did think about taking the lower tailgate off, but then I'd have nothing to support the upper tailgate because I haven't got any struts for this. There's the back dampers in there. Back axle's all in place. I mean, once everything is done, I really want to get the boot floor in so then I can drive it up to the pressure wash, get him to pressure wash the entire underside of the car off, and then I can coat it. Oops. Yeah, because everything else is really sort of done and dusted. No, for some reason that rubber is not fitted in properly, is it? It is now. Right. It's been here that long. Look, all of the bloody satin black has bleached out. I don't know what we can do about that. This wing needs to come off, mainly because of grot along the edges. Nothing particularly nasty, but I do want to get it done so that it's watertight. I'll probably have a go at cleaning the top edge of the chassis up and the sides where the fuel tank goes in before the boot floor goes in, because I can paint it with some rust treatment and then seal it. Be nice to see it moving. Right, so how am I going to get this bastard out? Support my weight. So, the main cross member, I don't know if you can see, the main cross member is literally just down on the tip of my finger. So if I was to go directly down from the inside face of the, this is the rear cross member for the body, that's the rear cross member for the chassis. If I go directly down from here, that's this panel out of the way. So I'm more or less going to go along the edge with a grinding disc, cutting disc, sorry. If I put a small cut in there, I might then be able to run the reciprocating saw, or I might just decide, you know what, I'm going to go berserk with the angle grinder. Put my headphones on and do it. All of this lot is a fuel tank, rear lights, or number plate lights I should say. Get this off, weld a new one on. Like I say, what I've done in the past, using an angle iron, is to weld the angle iron onto the back of the car and then just drill 2 holes down through it, which then replicate these 2 holes here. But I need to get the lion's share of this bit off before I can go any further. It's not uncommon for these to rot out, by the way. Not uncommon at all. Right, I'm going to crack on with cutting that out then. And then it's done. I might get in there. Yeah, because I can stand in the back, get my headphones on, and get busy with it. That's been a lot of grinding. It needed to come off though. I mean, that was one of the good bits that was left. And what we're actually left with is a pretty solid chassis rear cross member. Now, I've not been able to find this part with 2 holes at the back end, for now, as a replacement part. So the earlier style tanks, steel tanks, that when they went in had 3 holes, one here, and one in the middle, to support the tank, and there was captive bolts that went down to hold them up. However, we don't have that luxury, so I think we are going to go back down to angle iron. So the idea behind this will be to get this roughly in place. I'm going to shorten this obviously, but the idea will be to put it in the chassis in between the rails and mount it, weld it on. But I've had enough of all of that grinder action. That really has been quite hard work doing that lot. I'm going to clean up, de-rust this face here, and then that's going to get seat welded onto it. Oh. But for now, I'm going to let the grinder gearbox cool down. I'm going to get out of the back of this car. Oh. And that's been hard work. I mean, it's gone. I was piling through the flap disc trying to do this. This is half the cutting discs that I've used, so I've had to take it off in chunks. I've got through 2 of these. So yeah, I mean, reciprocating saw was very helpful, if only to keep the sparks down. But ultimately it was using the cutting disc to cut as much of the remains away, and then using a grinding disc. That proved to be the most useful. Grinding disc to cut back and grind back all of the welds to flat. Yes. A cup of coffee, I think. Nice blue clouds today. Check those blue clouds out. Oh yes. They'll be moaning next week. It'll be the hottest June since records began in 1946. Because you can bet your ass 1945 would have been the hottest year prior to that. By some margin. It's a load of bollocks, isn't it? Right, coffee. It was a bit of a bastard getting the torch in there. But yes, I have welded that on. One side to the other. Not my best welding, but it'll do the job. I'll get the belt sander in there tomorrow. The problem I had was the proximity, and you can see it in there, of the body cross member to the top of the chassis. It really was quite tight. So I'll tidy some of those welds up. The majority of it's going to get hidden by the bumper anyway. But that now means that tomorrow I can drill the holes, put the tank guard in, drop the tank on, and I'll be done with it. I want to put lots of wax between the tank and the tank guard anyway, because it's a common rot spot. The bottom of the tank rots out where it gets stuck. Moisture gets stuck between the tank guard and the bottom of the tank. Right, going home for a beer. Right, while the weather's half decent, I'm going to finish off the welding on this, and then I can get Mr. Paintbrush out. So I want to weld up that wee hole over there on the edge of the footwell, on the edge of the floor, and I want to put a plate over that. And then we're more or less there. That light's gone in. Shame it's got a big lump taken out the top of it. But yeah, that all works. Passenger side, excuse me, all works. The only thing that doesn't work, this is quite a common problem. You stay there, you bastard. Quite a common problem is the hazard plunger only works on one side, and it's a problem within the control up here. I'll go through that, show you what the problem is. Right, let's get myself ready. I need to do a bit of painting because I have got the slam panel ready to paint, and also the front bumper ready to paint. Ah, okay, fair enough. If you want to be like that, you can be like that. Okay, what do we need to do to get this thing up and running? Bleed the brakes through is the primary, so all of the brake lines are now in place. So I need the car back up on 4 stands. Then I can bleed the brakes through. I know the pump is working because I've tested that already. And really, once it's on 4 stands, I can bleed the brakes right the way through, get that all done and dusted. That's a big job ticked off. I need to run the fuel chassis lines from the tank to, I'm going to find some way of propping this up, to the pipes that go into the fuel rail, and then see if this thing starts up. It should do. It wants to. It really does. If it starts up and the brakes are working, then I can move it. It'd be nice to see it not here, in that location, surrounded by shit. Because nothing is ever easy. Rear right-hand suspension damper mounting. The pin was wedged in there, so I had to remove it. Ah, good. Right, okay. I've managed to start bashing the remains of the circlip out. It is coming through. Needing a bit of heat and a bash. And then, once I've done that, you see, I can put the rear damper on. While I'm here, I'm going to put the brake pads in. I'll probably put this fucking door handling, because I've just found it. Save me lacerating my hands. There's a bag here, look. It says driver rear. I reckon it's a handle in there. A fork handle. And I also found the bonnet locking mechanism. Woohoo! Right, so we're having a bit of a spannery day. Once I've done this side, I'll need to take that outer wing off over there and finish off the welding. And then we're done on the welding! Oh yes! Well, the bolts did come out quite easily. I'll give them that. A quick dugger, and we were there. Right, let me see if I can't bash this through, and then it can go back on again. I'll give it a clean up. I'll spray a bit of wax around the back of it, and yeah, I think. Just one of those moments that I'm finding amusing. So I'm fitting up the pads. This is one of the pattern rear calipers. Don't worry about the surface rust of the disc. I'm going to clean that off in a minute. It will disappear anyway. The problem is I assembled this like yonks ago and it's got damp since. Now, it's a pattern caliper, designed for the car. It's correct. The pads are designed for it, as are the pins. I know there's backwards and forwards movement because the pistons haven't been, but there really shouldn't be that much in and out movement. These are rattling around like a dick in a bucket. So right, okay, I'm going to get another set of pads out now. I'm using the same pins. These pads can come 8. And I've got these pads in. Different pads. The anti-rattle shims can go back in. I normally kind of, you know, I would normally have to lean on these a little bit in order to get them to go in. Now, it still rattles, but that is infinitely better. So what's the difference then? Well, the rattly pads, the good pads. I think that answers your question, doesn't it, Richard? Fuck's sake. Further investigation. Old style caliper. These are the pads that just came off there. Nice. Exactly the same pads, exactly the same pins. It's just fucking shit, isn't it? It is absolute shit. Right, okay, so let's next look at the holes. So it's these peg pinholes here that I'm looking at. So to get the trusty drill set out, let's start with a 5. No, smaller than a 5. 4.8. Yeah, 4.8 goes through nicely. And on the originals, not a chance. 4.5. You come down here and have a look. 4.5. Nope, not a chance. 4.2. Oh, 4.2 goes through. So we're about 4.3, 4.4. So we're half a mil bigger on the holes on these calipers than we were on those. However, right, I've got no idea where the other calipers come from, so I've got, out of my stash, I have found a pair of rear calipers, right hand, left hand, and these are RTC 5889, RTC 5890. I'll go and check that part number in a second. So, we have then got, on the floor, the 2 calipers. Are you going to stand up? You're not going to stand up, are you? We've got the 2 calipers. So this is the one I've just taken out of my stash. Put it in using a pair of the Delphi pads, single clip on each side and solid. Okay, this is the other caliper that I've just taken off the car. For a start off, the pins are falling out of here. I don't know what these calipers are, but they ain't Range Rover. They ain't Range Rover. So that's a pain in the arse. I don't know where they came from. I don't know whether they were supplied by the customer or by me, but they ain't going on. Absolutely fucking not going on. There's no visual markings on the outside. What have we got here? Casting number. Got an R for right. 8713. Doesn't mean anything, does it? It's just a casting reference. '8201. I don't know what they are. I think the key thing about these is that, as I've already explained, is the increased diameter of the hole that the pin goes through, and it's a lot bigger. And then on top of all of that, I'm not convinced the hole's even in the right fucking place. So I'm going to put these callipers on. These, the customer can, if I supplied them, obviously then that's down to me. Otherwise, customer can have them back. I don't know where they came from. Mildly irritating. Right, now what we need to do next is work out whether these are metric or imperial. So these are my Delphi pads set of. Right, I'm going to find out. Right, so those calipers are correct for this year of car. So they are a metric thread, but they have imperial bolts, 6-headed bolts, or 6 flat bolts, hexagon bolts, rather than the 12 pointers. So bolted that straight on, beautiful. I've popped in the Mintex pads, the ones that were the worst possible case scenario, and the standard pins with a single clip on each side. And okay, there's a bit of back and forth because the pistons haven't moved out yet, but no rotational movement at all. So I don't know where those other calipers came from. Possibly off a Defender, I reckon. Back end of a Defender, I don't know. I didn't buy them. I'm fairly sure I didn't buy them. Correct me if I am wrong. Right, now having done that, let's put the other fucking side together. It's taken a long time, that has. That's ridiculous. Let's pop the brake wear connector together. That can go in there. It is going to go in there. And click. Right, okay, I'll secure that later on. I'm going to go and take the other caliper off and swap that over as well, because it is exactly the same. And then, yeah, makes a difference, doesn't it? What a bunch of shite. I don't know why. I couldn't tell you if the Defender rear calipers are different or not, but yeah, that's definitely Range Rover because it was bought as Range Rover. It came out of these boxes. RTC 599, 5889, 5890. Been sitting in the shelf for God knows how long, but they're on now. We are, rear pad's done. Just as Ben starts moving some plant around. Oh, he's gone quiet. Yeah, rear pad's done at last. They can go back in the container. I put the pads on that the customer bought. They can go down there, down there, down there. Great. Okay, now, next challenge. Left-hand damper. Oh, just pop it on. Just pop it on and do the nut up. Yes, I'll show you. Pop it on, do the nut up. Well, on these early ones, early Range Rovers, the top peg up here has 2 pinholes. That one, and there's one down here. They're at right angles to each other. And yeah, someone's cut the pin off. So I'm going to have to, I'll see if I can tap it through. If I can't tap it through, then it's going to have to take this off as well. It's probably not a bad idea, so I can treat the rust behind it anyway. For the sake of the 3 bolts, replace the nuts. Replace the nuts. Right, but at least the pads are in and not wobbling around and not grinding against the disc. These have gone surface rusty really quickly. It's just the shit fucking weather we get in this country in the summer. It's got the back end on it. Two backlights. I fixed the rear wing up now. I had to make a captive plate to go against the inside here. It's just made a lump of steel, folded an angle on it to give it some rigidity. Drilled a couple of bolts, welded a couple of 8mm bolts in there. Might have been 1/4 inch bolts. And then put some nuts on it. That'll do nicely. A little bit of stone guard. I stone guarded the inner wing before I did that, and also popped on the rear handle. Should have done that months ago. Disappointing about the amount of overspray on certain components, but never mind, these things happen. So door opens inside and out. That all needs flattening back. I just wanted to get some heavy duty paint on it, flat it back, and then put some nice sort of satin top coat on it. I don't know what we're going to do about all this satin top coat. It wasn't in the original scope of the project, but kind of needs doing front to back. So next step on this little beauty will be to sort the brake bleeding out, and I can feel already that the clutch clevis pin is not in. In fact, there it is. Not clutch, what are you talking about? Brake clevis pin is not in. So I need to fit that, get the front end up in the air, bleed the brakes. Right, given the slam panel a very thick coating of satin black, let that dry in the sunshine, and I've also, in the container over here, popped a couple of coats of satin black onto the bumper, which is looking beautiful. It will need another coat on top of that in a minute, but I wanted to get some paint on it. Once that's gone off, perhaps tomorrow, I'll rotate it and paint the other side. But I didn't actually strip all the paint off the inside. I just stripped it off the outside where it was really struggling. Had a day putting this thing back together again. Yeah, some things, because we are constrained by budget, I can't restore every single thing that goes back on this car. For me to kind of prep and paint all of the detail of this engine bay is going to cost a small fortune. So we're making sure that things are serviceable. We're replacing things where we need to, and then we're reassembling. The objective really of this is now to see if, well, we're up on up on 4 stands. So I'm going to put the front pads in, bleed the brakes through, get the brakes working and finished, then run the fuel lines through and see if we can't start. It's been a nice day today. It's been putting things back together really as I go through. Less things in my container, less things on the shelves, less things in the back of the car, more things on the car. So I'm quite pleased with the way things are coming back together. I've taken the plunger off there because obviously I put the lock mechanism in down here, and I really don't want the bonnet to slam itself shut just yet. That'll get adjusted up. Now, what I need to do at the back here is this chunk of metal here needs to go on somewhere around there. That more or less is going to fit, so I'll trim it back so I'm not kind of overlapping. Fuck's sake, Richard! I'll trim it back so I'm not replacing the entire thing. Probably cut out up here somewhere. You can see where already I've replaced the outer arch because that needs seam sealing in. Get that piece on, and then we're more or less done on this side. Lots of stuff needs pushing back into the car. I just lobbed some paint on it and look, it's bloody run like I don't know what, so that's all going to have to come off and be done again. So that I can weld on tomorrow. My concern about all this though, all I'm really going to do with the chassis is I'm going to wire brush the surface back by hand. I'm going to put a rust converter on it, and then I'm going to spray a wax over the top. I think the top faces I'll do while the boot floor's out. Sides and everything else can happen once it's all back together and in one piece. Once again, it's one of those things where we don't have the budget for a complete body off chassis restoration, but there are products out there that will certainly make these axles and the chassis look a lot tidier and more robust. There's no structural rot anywhere on this thing now. It is all completely solid. I've just noticed down here I've not made up the bracket, the baffle that goes in there to support the brake line. Again, it's another kind of problem you've got with doing a project half an hour a month. But all the panels are on the outside now. Hello, Axel. All the panels are on the outside. The customer's still got lots of stuff. The car arrived to me stripped down. So there's lots of stuff with the customer still, which he's going to need to bring over. I might have to give it a wash before he turns up. And like I say, the bits in the boot is reducing. Could do with getting the bits for the tailgate, really, so I can get the tailgate to seat properly. I'll have a chat with him about that, see if he can't post that lot up to me. It'd be nice if we can get it started. That will be nice. You can see there's some moisture got in here. That's quite old moisture there. I don't know how that's got in there. So treat the floors and everything before any of the sound deadening goes back in. I haven't got any of the sound deadening or carpet. Dash can go back together fairly straightforward. That's all fairly easy. Yes. It's a lot closer to getting done than mine. Been going nuts on this today. Welded that piece in down there. That'll do nicely. I have welded in that piece down there, bracket for the brake lines. On this side, one thing I hadn't done was weld in the bracket for the relays under the passenger seat. That's done. Realised we don't actually have a inertia switch, and that was sort of jammed in there, but it's the wrong size spade terminals for that. So I'm not quite sure what's gone on there. I'll sort that out. That could be one of the reasons why the fuel pump wasn't working. Then at the back end here, I have cut out and welded in a big patch at the bottom of the spare wheel well. It will do the job. Welded in that patch up there on the corner of the wheel arch. That's now all done there. I then started looking at this shit here, which I've thrown it on the floor in disgust, but where's it gone? Bloody great big lump of silicon was in there. And the heavens are about to open. So we're going to see if we can't make up a small patch to go in there. What I'm planning on, I think, is going to be an angled section which I'll seam weld onto the top edge of that. So it needs to be from there to about here, I think. The rest of that I'll be able to just push that down and weld that straight on. Happy enough with that bit there. It's this edge along here where you can see someone has been in there and chopped it out and not necessarily done a beautiful job of it. So a little bit of angle iron and weld that in.